So there's three specific issues with the rum industry today, in our opinion. The first is that there is a huge amount of sugar being added to some rums, and we think that that should be disclosed. In some cases, you'll see brands that have up to 92 grams of sugar per liter. 92 grams of sugar is 23 teaspoons in 1 liter of rum. So think about that. That's an entire rocks glass filled with sugar. It's a tremendous amount, and in the United States, we don't disclose that, so it's a little bit strange. So you have these hyper sweet rums, and in our particular case, we're dry style, so we have no added sugar at all. And that allows you to do whatever you want when you mix your own cocktails, add the sugar you want. The other issue with rum today is the age statement. There are a lot of rums out there that have an age statement, and the only legal age statement in the United States is aged X number of years. So in our particular case, our rum right there on the front of the bottle says aged 12 years. It doesn't say 12-year aging. It doesn't say 12 age old. It doesn't say slow age. It doesn't say Solera 12. Those are all terms. They're not age statements. Now, different brands use that to categorize themselves, and that's fine. But it shouldn't be interpreted as an age statement. If something says, Solera 25, that doesn't necessarily mean that that rum is 25 years old, although people assume that that's what it is. In most cases with Solera, it's a very young rum with a tiny little bit of older rum added to it. So that doesn't mean that it's 25 years old. That means it's probably 1 year old with a little bit in. So you should know these things, and that's the issue that's probably the biggest issue with rum today. The next thing is coloring in rum. The truth about coloring is really interesting. There are a number of brands out there that add tremendous amounts of coloring to their product, and they do that for a style. They do it because of heritage. It originated with the Navy rums a long time ago. They started putting molasses in there. They wanted mineral content. They wanted vitamins and things that they could get from molasses to help the sailors who were drinking this stuff. It was also trying to help them not get scurvy. So they were developing it that way. Other people used it to hide the mistakes that they were making during blending. So if you add water too quickly to your rum, it'll cloud the distillate. It'll make it look like somebody poured a glass of milk in your giant container of rum. It doesn't change the flavor, but it certainly makes it look unappetizing. So people would put black coloring in it to hide the fact that that had occurred. That was another reason why we have black rum today. So in my opinion, you should look for the age statement. That's the most important thing. If it's a truly aged rum, it's going to say aged X number of years. That's it. So in the Caribbean, there's a really interesting phenomenon that happens, and we lose about 6 to 8% per year to the Angel's share. That's how much evaporates every year out of a barrel, 6 to 8% of the contents. If you live in Kentucky or Tennessee, you'd probably lose 2 to 3%. If you lived in Scotland, you'd probably lose about 1%. That's how you can have Scottish whiskeys that are 30 years old or 50 years old. But down in the Caribbean, it's next to impossible to have a rum that's older than 20 years old. And the reason is after 20 years of evaporation, there's nothing left in the barrel. In our particular case, at 12 years, where we harvest our oldest rum, there's only 32% left in the barrel after 12 years. So if we sat there and just let it go for the next 8 years, got to 20, there'd be nothing left. So the only way to have a super aged rum that's made anywhere along the equator is to top up the barrels. What that means is, imagine if you took 100 barrels of rum and you set it down for 12 years. Every one of those barrels would have about 30% left. So if you took those barrels and you topped them all up, you'd have 30 full barrels. Now let that sit for another 12 years, right? You'd be down to 30% again in each of those barrels after 12 years. So that translates back into about 9 full barrels. A 24-year-old rum would have started with 100 barrels and only have 9 barrels left. That's a very expensive rum to make. And that's why truly super aged rums, anything over 12 years or so, is typically very, very expensive and very rare. So whenever you see a bottle of rum that has a number on it that says 25, or other really super aged, if that's not $200 a bottle, it's probably not that age.